Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. I am so excited to be here. Today, I get to talk to Cathy, who is a fabulous mom, but she's also having a beautiful mission. So I'm gonna let her tell us all about it. She's gonna join us here in a minute, and I'm so excited to just get. We've been talking about going live to have this conversation for a while, and what better month that this month, October, is Autism Awareness Month in Canada. So I figured that it was still a good month for us to learn in the US because we can never really have enough information about how to treat each other, how to treat other people without assuming. And so yeah, I'm so excited. I see her, invite her. She can introduce herself, and you guys are gonna fall in love with her as much as I have. But I am so excited to just show that, look, you got
I
you.
know, I love it. Yay! Me too.
So right now, like, this is for everybody that we're like, look, why didn't you tell them who you are and why we're so excited about wearing this beautiful, beautiful uniform?
Yes, thank you so much, Thelma. I am Cathy Heath. I'm a mom of three. I have one child on the autism spectrum, and I share my journey in parenting in the hopes of connecting and supporting other parents that are going through a similar journey. The reason we're freaking out about our little t-shirts here is because in Canada, where I live, it's Autism Awareness Month. And so I've partnered with a local graphic designer, and we did a very limited run of apparel, and all of the designs were around inclusion and sort of autism, but more so all inclusion for everyone. And that's what our shirts are all about. And thank you so much for your support, Thelma. That means so much to me.
No, honestly, when I saw these, I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I'm gonna back out so everybody can see it, and you can explain it. Because actually, I went to drop off my kid to school, and I got all kinds of compliments of my cool shirt, and I was like, well, do you know what it means? I was so excited. So let me back out, and you can explain what it actually means.
Okay, so what it says. Yeah, it says, I have a whole universe in my mind, and then there's an illustration of a person, and it's supposed to just be like the swirling thoughts that we've all got in our minds at all times, really. But that one in particular was actually inspired by my son, who is 9, and he's on the autism spectrum. And he didn't really speak until he was about 6. Like, he would have a word or two, you know, like he would say like bye or like juice or something if he wanted, right? But he wasn't a good verbal communicator. But at the same time, I knew that he was always aware of what was going on around us. He was always so like in the room with us. It was never that stereotype of someone who can't speak, so they're not really involved in what's happening. It wasn't like that at all. I knew that he was like totally with us all the time. Like, he was so aware of what was happening. So that design is meant to speak for, you know, even if I can't have this kind of conversation with you, even if I can't have this quick back and forth and be able to answer your questions, it doesn't mean I don't have everything going on in here that you have going on in there. And everyone has a whole universe in their mind. Everyone wants to share it. And generally, we just don't really give people that can't do this the time to like open up and express themselves.
Isn't it beautiful? Like, I really think that the concept is so, and it honestly is. I am so glad that I'm inspired by your son, but I do think that the concept totally applies to me. There's a million thoughts in my brain going all at once, and I cannot even talk to myself about them.
And you are like, you're on it. You can talk. Which I love about you. That is totally part of your charm.
Oh, thank you so much. Why didn't you tell them what the one that you're wearing, which is part of the branding too, right?
Okay, so mine is like just a t-shirt. It's got this rolled cuff, which I actually love this part of it. It's sewn this way, so it doesn't ever roll down, which I love. And it says brave and subtle ways. And it's supposed to be very subtle. That's part of the design. Like, it's a little bit, you don't read it at first. It's kind of a little bit more quiet for the people that really care about their fashion. It's very plain and simple. But this one, it speaks more to like being brave in subtle ways. So say for you, example, like you've got all these thoughts going on, and we've just been through this pandemic and things are scary and there's so many unknowns, and like for a time it was like going out to get your groceries was a fearful sort of thing. And it's just sort of like, even when you have that anxiety or you feel stressed and you kind of just like go for it and do it anyway, like that's brave, right? Like that's pushing through that discomfort and just not letting that stand in your way, and accomplishing and achieving what you wanted, set out to do, which again is so relative to your channel here. Yeah, but it's like, you know, other people don't see that as being brave. That it's subtle, it goes unnoticed, it's just you're living your everyday life. But anxiety is so real for some people, and those like everyday actions of like getting up and just getting through the day, like sometimes that can be really, really tough. So that's what this design speaks to. It also comes in a black on black in like a crew neck, which I love. It's amazing. You wouldn't want it because it's really fleecy and cozy on the inside. You'd be sweating wearing it in Arizona.
Finally, we have like some weather, like to where you can feel the wind. So I think this is the perfect time. I might have to get it.
I can't even imagine. Like truly, it's so cold here. But I was thinking about you this morning, thinking about this live, and I was like, gosh, I would just like die of the heat there. But then you would die of the cold here, right? So it's all relative. Oh, and look, Samantha said, yes, just because someone is nonverbal, it doesn't mean they don't understand or aren't a part of the conversation. Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what that design is all about.
But it's not only what the design is about, it's about your mission. That pretty much describes your mission on pretty nice, right? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so sometimes I guess one of the hardest parts about navigating the world with my son is just seeing that sometimes he is kind of dismissed. We're really lucky. We live in an awesome community and he goes to a really great school and all that stuff. But the older that he gets, he's 9 now, right? So he's like a kid. And for the most part, like his disability is invisible. Like people just look at him like he should be a 9-year-old kid, and they kind of like get sort of judgmental almost when he's not capable of the things that they expect for him. And I just really want to change that. Like it's so hard. It's hard for everybody with a disability because like the accessibility is not there. If you have a physical disability, people are just so ignorant of what you can and cannot do. And so I just wanted to share more of that to make people aware that like these people have something so valuable to bring to our worlds and to share with us. And if we just have the patience to get to know them and make the slightest accommodations for them, like we can all live such a more beautiful life together, you know? And that's kind of what my mission is about.
I think so beautiful. And I don't know, ever since we met, we kind of just connected on the fact that we obviously motherhood is sometimes a struggle. It's just such an adaptation. But for you, obviously, it came with even more expectations or more of a step on how do I help him? How do I go about supporting this? I'm sorry, I hear you. Samantha is saying, I hear about both my kids. I not even tell about this thing. I almost feel like I have to justify their invisible disability. That's just, that breaks my heart. But so how do you guys go about it? Like, or maybe what would you say to somebody that has done that to one of your kids? Like what would you say to them so they know better, or they can show up in a different way?
I think like just you're missing out. Like my kid's awesome. I know everybody's gonna say that about their own kids, so it's very objective of me. But I just think that's the thing. Like we can learn so much from one another, and there are things that are really difficult for my son to do. Like having a conversation like this is not gonna happen. I don't know if that'll ever happen for him. I hope it will. It could. It maybe. But there are other things that he's so amazing at. Like, he's really talented at drawing. He's really talented when it comes to reading people, and also, like, he has perfect pitch. And like, we are always like, oh, he'll be a voice actor if nothing else. Like, it's incredible. And but then it's like, when you connect with him on those kinds of things, he loves it. Like, he can't wait to share with you, like, to show you how he's drawn something or anything like that. If you can tap into something that interests him too, even though the words aren't there, there's still communication, and it's so valuable on both ends, right? And I think, like, we just rely too much on verbal communication, and we think that people don't bring anything if they're not willing to speak up or whatever. And it's just, I think that's unfair. But also, just having these conversations and being open to it, like, that gives me so much hope that, you know, if your children go to school with an autistic child and they come home and they're like, oh, this kid was really mean to me, he pushed me, or she hit me, or something like that, which is awful. Like, no kid should ever have to put up with the abuse or anything like that. But at the same time, gives me so much hope knowing that you are learning about this kind of thing, and you are going to have those conversations with your children about, like, you know, some kids don't have their words all the time, and just giving them those little tips of, like, not everyone can do all the things that you do, but isn't that great? We can learn other ways of doing things from other people, and just little conversations like that, not just automatically assuming the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's actually every parent's responsibility that we tell our kids that there's all kinds of people out in the world, and maybe, and, you know, walk gently into any conversation. And I mean, I live my life by, like, the four agreements. I don't know if you've heard of that book, but it had,
Yeah.
they don't take anything personal, speak clearly, or ask for clarification. Like, it just is like, be mindful of how you treat somebody, pretty much. Like, just regardless of what you're seeing, of what you're hearing, what you're thinking, because many, many, many times, like you said, that judgment that you feel that your son gets, or people give without even knowing, because they're not aware that they're confused or lost, that they already made a decision in their mind on how to go about that conversation. So it's just being super mindful and being aware of, like, there is all kinds of things out in the world that we have to tell our kids about. And as parents, I feel like it's everybody's job. Like, no kid should be ever surprised about, you know, kids that my daughter did it. She's 3.5. She didn't have her words for a long time, and we thought that she's coming in a bilingual home, but she went to school, and I was like, oh, I was that mom too, because I was like, all right, well, we'll see how this goes. All she could say, I would just play, but would not have a conversation, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny, because I feel like kids are such naturals. Like, they don't really have those judgments about other kids. And even in kindergarten or grade 1, it's like, they think nothing of it. They just, do you want to play? Yeah, great, let's play. You want to play? No, okay, I'm going to go ask this other kid. And you know what I mean? So that, it's funny that we sort of almost lose the acceptance as we get older, and we get more self-conscious, and we get more aware of our actions and how we're perceived by others. And, like, I just hope that that's something that's gonna go away. I don't know that it ever will. Maybe that's a silly thing to hope for, but
if not in the world, at least in our family, right? Because I feel like you might not be able to change the whole world, but one family at a time, and maybe having these conversations and more openly. Like, it is not a big deal. You just have to be aware. I feel like it would make a great progress. So for people that don't know anything about autism, you want to give them a rundown of what it is? Well, by now you're a pro.
I'm only a pro on my son's autism, this is one of the things that's tough about it. It's because it's such a broad spectrum, and it looks so different for everyone, right? So it's hard to talk about it and be like, even though this is our experience for our family, it could look completely different for another family. But that's the other thing too, is like it's a spectrum, but it's not a linear spectrum. It's not like, oh, he's a little autistic or she's a lot autistic. It's kind of like, it's sort of like more like a circle, and like you're kind of great at things on this part of the circle, then you're not so good at things on the other part of the circle. But basically, social communication is really a struggle, and that's like one of the biggest hallmarks. So all these little things that we are pretty natural at, like that we see our kids, they just pick it up and they see us do it, and they go out into the world and they're able to do the little like wave and the hi and all that stuff naturally without any prompting. Like that's very lost on my son. And just like Samantha had said up here, ironically 90% of communication is nonverbal, and yet we expect people to speak up in order to be recognized, which is so true. And that's a big part of autism too, is that it's like that nonverbal stuff is totally lost on them. Like everything seems very literal to my son. Like he just needs it to be very direct and straightforward. So that's definitely a big part of autism, I would say. It's actually kind of funny though, because I love that. I love that about him. He's so direct when he does ask for something. And my husband and I often joke, because we have two other children. We have a daughter that's younger and a son that's older than him. And we're always like, he's our easiest. It's so easy because it's never cryptic. It's always like, this is what I want, or I'm mad at you because, or I feel really excited. And it's just so great. And it'll be like a very short 5-word sentence tops or something, but it's just like, okay. And you just move on. And it's so great. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, oh my gosh. Kids and tantrums, my kids don't do that. Sometimes they try to get you with the eyes or like, mommy. And I'm yes. Like, where are we going with this? So I would love some directness. Can we just point here? Like
I know that manipulation and everything is like usually gone. Sometimes he'll try it. I feel like he picks it up from his brother and sister. I'll see them do it and be like, ooh, that worked. I'm gonna try that. But generally, like even the other day, it was so sweet. Like for me, I think a lot of people like don't want to be vulnerable, right? Like they don't want to directly ask like somebody to step up for them. So the other day, he said to me, I'm going to walk home from school by myself. And I said, okay, great. I'll see you after school. And then he said, I would like if you could wait by the door for me. I said, oh my God, I would love to wait by the door for you. But I was laughing about it later because I was thinking, you know, I would feel so pathetic to say to my husband, I would really love it if you could come greet me at the door when I come home. You know, but also I would love that. That would make me feel so good. But I'm not willing to like open up and say that, right? So it's just like that too. I've learned so much from him in that way of just being like, yeah, ask for what you want. Say what you need, you know?
Yeah, awesome. That's so cool. And yes, I feel like with age and life and everything, we forget to go about asking for what we need. And we, like you said, we feel pathetic, or we're like, I should be able to figure it out, or I don't really need the help, and all these things, right? But in reality, I mean, we could all use a little bit of help, and we could all use a hug in the front door. Like, how was your day? Like, you made it. Come on here.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure it is sort of stressful too. Like when he does go, I think now he's getting older, he's seeing when the kids are little, it's a little bit easier to sort of like follow along, and you know, you just fit in and nobody really notices anything. But now that he's older and those relationships between his peers are getting a lot more complex, and there is that underlying sort of like non-spoken communication now, I'm sure that that's a little bit more of a struggle and something that we'll have to work to navigate in the coming years. But yeah, honestly, it's tough. Some people who are autistic, like they never speak, they're never verbal. They use like a communication device, which is really cool. It's amazing that we have the technology to be able to do that. So they'll speak through like apps on an iPad and that kind of thing. We never had to do that with him, thankfully, but it was kind of on our radar when he was younger. Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like I've met so many more people. I wish I had been a more inclusive person before this experience, but this experience has made me a more inclusive person, and it has just enriched my life in so many ways.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing. I feel like you are enriching many people's life by having this beautiful mission, by getting out there and explaining and educating people in what really it's important, and we often forget.
Yeah, I think we just get caught up in busy lives, and then like the other thing is parenting is tough no matter what. It's not easier or harder for anyone. Like it's just tough, right? I don't think it's harder for me because my son is autistic. We just deal with whatever is thrown our way. And again, like honestly, we laugh often that like, oh, he's such an easy kid. It didn't always feel like that. It definitely didn't feel like that when he was younger. But yeah, and I think we just all have to have that grace for one another when we're going through this. Like, it's wonderful, but God, it's not easy.
Yeah, sure. And also, yeah, maybe that's just the best way to put it. Just make sure that you don't assume anybody's journey, and to just be kind, and maybe even offer every now and then, because I'm pretty sure more often than not people do need the help, but because we
Yeah.
are also so busy, yes, and so stuck in the idea of like, I'm an adult, I should be able to figure it out. We don't have that conversation. But right now I live in an awesome neighborhood too.
Yeah.
Thankfully. Huge difference. What you can say, like, can you please give me 30 minutes? Like, it's so nice. Or when like one of my neighbors is struggling with something, I was like, can you pick up my kid? Like, it's so nice to have that community to feel like, oh my God, there's no way out. I have to figure this out by myself all the time. Most of the time you don't, but you have to be brave enough to ask for help.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the t-shirts too that we've been selling. 100% of net proceeds go to a local organization here called Adaptabilities. So what they do is they have that community there for all kinds of youths and adults with disabilities that are both visible and invisible. So autism, but it runs the gamut of everything like cerebral palsy, ADHD, like everything. They support everyone, and then they provide respite. So a lot of people with a disability, like when my son was younger, I couldn't just leave him with just anyone. Like it just wasn't possible. They didn't understand what he needed. They didn't understand what he was trying to communicate and stuff like that. But it's so great to have places like Adaptabilities where they have these trained professionals and they have the great facilities to support that. And you can get a break, like for yourself. Like caregiving, that's the one thing. Like caregiving is a little tougher because it's like, you have a child, it's like they eat their solids, they move on, they're feeding themselves, they potty train, they grow up, they go off to school, it's no big deal, they adjust, yada yada. Like you just move through those phases like as per the plan, right? But then when you're caregiving to a child with a disability, and all those phases take longer, and sometimes they never end, and you do need that break. You really need that time away, and you need to know that your child's with someone that can handle that and that can be trusted with that care, right? So that's why we wanted to support Adaptabilities. And they also run awesome programming. This is so silly, but like here in Edmonton, I'm sure it's the same everywhere, but we have all these huge murals have become a citywide phenomenon lately because Instagrammable photos, right? You go and you find the greatest mural and you take your Instagram photo. And Adaptabilities this summer, for one of their young adult programs, they took a group of adults around to all these murals. They let them take their selfies and do their thing, and then they taught them how to like edit and upload the pictures after. And it's just like little things like that where it's like you're not going to get usually that experience, right? That most other teens or people in their young 20s are out doing on the weekend, and they're doing those silly little things that seem so insignificant to us, but is like a deeply meaningful memory for them. And like Adaptabilities provides those experiences and just really gives so much back to the community.
Yeah, that sounds so fun. That's so
I
exciting.
know,
I
isn't
had
that cute?
not get enough of it because they were just having the best time of their life, and you can see it in their smile and stuff. I don't know if you know this about me, but I was a caregiver for a long time when I was in college, and I babysat them and a few other things like cancer patients, autism, and a few. You have to get a certification for each one of them, um, but it does open up your world to a whole new world. That when I was in college, I was just like, oh, so this is what I signed up for. I had like, wow, and you learn so much, and so what is still stuck with me is how much love they give, like how they're so passionate about something. It was beautiful to watch. So um I could definitely see how those experiences can mean that much more to them than to us that we have the access to do it easily.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Like, we take so much for granted. And that's why we really wanted to support Adaptabilities, because they provide those, just those things that we don't, what parent is going to put their 20-year-old in a car and drive them around the city so that they can take selfies, right? But what 18, 19-year-old doesn't want to do that in this current day, right? So it's just little things like that that we take for granted, and they provide. And then, of course, they really do support the whole family unit with the respite care, and they have great summer camps and that kind of stuff. So it's a really great organization. But yes, I so appreciate people like you who put themselves out there and take on that caregiving role. It's so beautiful. I could never do that for anyone else other than my children. I'm too selfish. I'm not
I
cut
mean,
out for that kind of work, but I have so much respect for it.
but no, yeah, I do think that yes, I agree with you absolutely. But I didn't have kids back then, and I love babysitting. That's pretty much all I knew, and it was an amazing experience, and one that I would be open to doing again, because you learn so much more about a perspective that you don't often see, and that is beautiful to see and to watch and to learn from. And what better way to learn than to be hands-on on an activity? At least that's my way that I learn. Like I can read all I want, and but if I don't take action into it, then I'm never gonna be I'm never not gonna fully know. So we are getting to the end of the time together. So I just wanna, well, you know that I'm a huge fan. Obviously, I support your mission 100%, and I love the concept that you guys came up with. The brand, the support, the fact that it's going to people, that is gonna to a place that is supporting all of you guys, and is creating a uh, memorable activities for everybody involved. But what is there anything else that we're missing that that you should have mentioned, that we should have gotten into, that I completely forgot because I was so excited?
I feel the same. I'm sure I'll think of 5 things after we end this, but no, I really appreciate people being open to these conversations, and just knowing that you're going to guide your children and help them. I think 1 in 66 kids in Canada is diagnosed with autism. That's quite a bit. I think it's higher in the US. I think it's like 1 in 55 or something. Yeah. So just knowing that it's incredibly likely that you probably know autistic people that were just never diagnosed because that wasn't as prominent when we were children. And B, your kids are absolutely going to have peers that are on the spectrum, because that's pretty high in terms of the population. So I think it's important to give everybody the tools of learning that not everyone communicates in the same way, but that doesn't mean that these people don't have value, and that we should be dismissive of them, and that we shouldn't include them, because they so deserve our respect. They so deserve our love. They so deserve that time to open up and make themselves known in whatever way they can. And I just so appreciate you holding space for that, and knowing that your kids are going to set such a great example of that for them, like for their own peers as well. So thank you.
Oh no, please don't even say that. But yes, I do think that by having this conversation, people actually are more aware of what is needed, because yeah, I'm sure the number is higher here, and even if it's not at school, we go to the park, you go to the zoo, you go to all these places, right? So you have to just be aware of what you're gonna find and how to treat, and just to always remember to just be kind. I feel like if there's one message to give, is just give everybody the time and the opportunity to be kind, or just make sure that you don't jump into assumptions. But I want thank you for educating us. Thank you for talking to. I know that is a month in Canada, but that the spectrum is not going anywhere, and I feel like it's one of those topics that people don't talk about because it's awkward. Because I'm not educated enough in it. Because I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you like this is what you do, because every case is so different. Like, so thank you for giving us sharing your experience, giving us some tools, telling us how to go about it. And again, I'm like fascinated by the whole shirt thing. And I am.
That's very limited. It's it'll be over pretty soon. So if you want one, you better grab it ASAP.
I got so many compliments this morning. I was like, well, you better hurry up because I'm pretty sure they're closing like tomorrow.
I know. Yeah, the response was huge. So we are going to do a few more, but we don't, it was just supposed to be a very limited run, but now we're doing another run and we're so impressed, but it will be over definitely probably by the end of November, latest. So yeah, but I so appreciate it. You brought something so special to Slay the Mic C4. Everybody loved you. You are so open and warm, and you bring such a beautiful energy into the world, and we're so grateful to know you.
Tell everybody how we met. So Cathy and
Yeah.
I went to the same Slay the Mic, where we learned to use our voice more bravely, because I'm pretty shy sometimes. And I don't often open up. Like, well, all right, before that course or program that we took with Jam, we both struggle on speaking our truths, maybe, or being like maybe feeling like powerful about it, or like it was meant to be part of our messaging. We learned in that program that I cry a lot, but I got through this one, and even though it was a tough topic. So
Proud of you.
Yeah, that's how we met. And ever since our first conversation, in those classes, you really talk about what is stopping you from speaking up and stuff like that. You do have to open up. And Cathy and I just kind of connected from the very beginning, because we were just like, she's onto something. I'm going to be friends with this one.
Yeah, I know. It's so interesting because one thing I'm always attracted to is people who are just unapologetically themselves. Like Jam is such a good example of that. And she just goes through the world being like, I am who I am. I said what I said. If you don't like it, just kick rocks, right? Like that's the Jam way. And I was like, I need that. I need to be that way. And I loved that because she encourages that in everyone, and that has helped me tremendously to be able to talk about this. My son's 9 now. He was diagnosed when he was just about to turn 5. I couldn't even say like he is autistic or he has autism. I couldn't say that to even my parents without breaking down, lump in my throat, horrified, terrified for his future. It was so hard. And I just think that too is like when you're first going through it, it's a very different experience than a few years later. It's easy to look at me and be like, oh, she's doing fine. It's no big deal. She feels great about it. But no, that I was not like that. And honestly, Slay the Mic helped me so much. Obviously, things have changed in my life a lot since then. But that's the thing. That was such a great program. And it empowered me to want to share my story more, because that's the thing. The more that we open up and talk about these kinds of things, the more just like it's not so intimidating to people, right? When you see someone out there who's like
Right.
maybe flapping their hands or jumping up and down or whatever, like that's just, oh, maybe that person's autistic.
Because if we have questions, or if we're like, oh my gosh, I met this person but I don't know how to support them, then they can reach out to you, and maybe you can give us some ideas of like how we could support a mom going forward, like, that would be nice to know. And if you don't know anybody with it, I mean, you can only Google so much.
Yes,
but if
you're never going to get the right answer on Google. You're going to get worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You're going to get WebMD, you're dying, you've got 3 months to live. That's what Google gives you.
Clear of it. Stay clear of it, right? That's terrible. But that. So it also, like, having these conversations gives us a resource. Because if you know somebody with autism and you want to be supportive in a different way, you can reach out to Cathy and ask them how can I, if not support the kid, maybe the family, or how do I show my appreciation, or how do I connect, all of the things that are awkward, that are uncomfortable, that we are probably gonna get wrong the first few times. Like, but it's better to take action than to just keep wondering and hoping for the best.
Yes, I totally agree. That is a big part of why I started it too, for sure. Yeah. So thank you so much for letting me share that. And yeah, if anybody ever does have questions, I'm open. I am not judgmental. I would have said all the wrong things about it 5 years ago. I'm still saying wrong things about it. No one does it perfectly. So I want to be very approachable too. So yes, if you ever have any questions, just DM me. I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your light and the space that we created on this awesome conversation. It was great to connect with you, Cathy. It was time.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.